All right, let's jump into it. I'll start off flicking across to the news. Fairly quiet on the news front actually, sort of overnight. As you can see, it wasn't really anything massive sort of coming out. A couple of Fed speakers, and we had New Zealand data this morning. Yeah, I mean fairly nonchalant sort of stuff. Nothing that really affects what we trade anyway. And as you can see, rest of the day is just pretty quiet, like in terms of sort of data release. So this whole week, I mean, after last week being such a sort of action-packed week with like all the top tier sort of bits of news coming out, this week's certainly been a little bit of sort of a slowdown. But moving on, I mean, tomorrow morning, sort of 1 past 5, which is a bit of a sort of odd time to have these sort of things. You got the 10-year bond auction. This could move markets a little bit. And then obviously later on in the day, we've got a bit of China data, but that's tomorrow. So today, as you can see, it's pretty quiet. So, I mean, not really a great deal to sort of move the market in different directions of where other than kind of the price actions kind of leading it. So we'll start off with DXY. Because if we have a look down on the lower time frames here, this is on the 4 hour. I think the 1 hour might sort of show it as well a little bit better. We did get that double top. It tried to push through, had a bit of a pullback early in Asia yesterday, tried to push through again. Obviously, as you can see, a couple of rejections through here. I always like these sort of rejections here, where it's that sort of, it's coming down, then it has one last big ditch effort up like this, sold into, and then sort of continues down. They're always a good one to sort of see when it's had quite a sort of like a solid sort of rejection in that second point there. Um, so look, I mean, obviously, sort of DXY has just been on an absolute rip up. So it's only standard that it would at least sort of, if not fail kind of thing, sort of consolidate a little bit around these highs, take a little bit of the pressure off. If we jump back onto the daily here, we are seeing that it is coming into this high level of resistance that we had marked out. So I thought, as I said a couple of times, I thought this area here would have sort of held a little bit stronger, but obviously it's just powered straight through, come up here. I it's hard to sort of to get sort of like also say bearish on this because obviously it's in a very sort of bullish sort of move here, but to me, it still feels like there's a couple of little factors that are sort of saying that we could be sort of seeing at least a sort of maybe not sort of a complete sort of meltdown from here, but maybe not necessarily having the fuel it needs to keep on powering through. Obviously, this is yet to be seen. This is only a 1 day pullback here. But if we pull this up a little bit more, you are seeing a little bit of a negative divergence through this area here as well. As you can see, like, this is obviously powering on to the top side here. Uh, Arrow, just in case you didn't know what direction it's going. We've got the arrow coming up here. And then you're seeing at the same time, the buying pressure is just like it's been very wobbly through here. I mean, this was that sort of choppy area here, but even if you just sort of like eliminate this one here, so let's bring this up here a little bit more because this is pretty much the most recent highs, these sort of periods through here. We drag this up to it all here as well. That's a negative divergence. And the thing is with this drove up here really on that NFP news. I mean, this one large candle here was the NFP. Monday, just the carry through. And obviously, as you can see where it's sort of come up to here, if we get right in very close, this has just come out here. Oh, can't actually see. And if we take rid of this out, if you can see where it's come to here, it's come up and it's just taken out all the top sides of these wicks. So there would have been a lot of stops. As I said, I thought it was going to stop around this area here. Okay, it blew myself or anybody else that was sort of like positioned against that out of the water by sort of continuing on here, even up around this top zone here. So, I mean, obviously you're seeing a little bit of profit taking, a little bit sort of a cooling sort of coming off from here. So again, it doesn't mean that it's okay, it's going to be coming back down here, but it's something to be aware of that this last push here was very news driven and it was overreaction, or maybe not overreaction, but it was very heavily a reaction from that massive upside miss on NFP. As we can see, coming into it, market, this could have been a fake out move, but I don't think anybody in the market necessarily thought we were going to get such a high number. I think the highest I saw in sort of predictions was UBS, and they said 280,000. I think the average was like, 190 or 200,000. Came in at 350. So the market wasn't sort of positioned correctly for this. And as such, you saw a lot of positions unwind very quickly. And that's what gave you the drive up here. And then once it's moving up like this, well, stops galore above this lot here. So, I mean, realistically, this is where you'd have your stops above the most recent highs. Next lot of stops, probably just above these highs. And as you can see, these would have been taken out. These would have been taken out. Okay, now we can start to sort of cruise back down. I mean, that's the way that it works when they hit stops. Generally, they'll drive it, hit the stops, and then they'll flip around and turn it. I mean, there's no need to sort of really push it much higher because, the next lot of sort of liquidity and stops, realistically, if you're putting them above highs, is way up over here. So, there's a long sort of move back up to that over there. So, as I said, it's not necessarily saying that it's cooling off, but you can see a reason for why that they are selling it off a little bit from this level here. Now, if we are to sort of see this sort of continue back down, you want to see some sort of thing. You want to take out that previous day first as first sort of point of call. Just while I do that, shall I get this back down a little bit? Sort of trying to sort of piece out where we might sort of be going if we were looking for some downside. So say this were a bit of a channel coming through here. This was obviously that dribble. That was that dribble of that NFP morning. So I mean, potentially, we are seeing this as a little bit, obviously, as a bit of a resistance here. So you got 1, 2, 3. If this were to be a bit of a channel, then you've got one touch here. You got, okay, yes, it did sort of come out here, but as I said, that was a very dribble morning to come out there. So, excuse me. As I said, I think with this negative divergence here, I think we could have a little bit more of a dribble down, a little bit of a cooling off. As I said, I don't think it necessarily means it's dead or if it's going to fail right back. But, a retest of the top side of this channel that it was kind of playing in for a bit here would be sort of a reasonable area, I would say, around the sort of 103.70. Just like we did with this earlier sort of consolidation. We broke out, we sort of stuffed around for a little bit, came back down, clipped the top side, and then exploded back off. So, it would only stand to reason structurally as well that you would get a little bit of a sort of back test around this sort of 370 area. We're at 413 right now. So, yeah, particularly if we break these lows, I think that could be a little bit of a point of interest. And then obviously if we sort of continue down underneath that, well, we'll deal with that when we get to it. But we jump down onto a 4 hour here. So as you can see, the 4 hour, that's your double top here. It's almost sort of like that little upside down, what's it called, high heel top. Coming out, we've taken out the lows and we're moving down here. So RSI's got a little bit of space to move to sort of continue this cooling off down here. We've got, I think, 25 minutes or so until we sort of see the first sort of signs of DXY sort of coming online. So 11:45, we see a little bit of an early indication of gaps and that up or down. It's been fairly flat on the opens the last couple of days. It hasn't been sort of massive gaps or anything. As you can see, this one yesterday was just minuscule. And where was I? I think this was the other open as well, was it? Somewhere around here. Yeah, it was a reasonably sort of flat kind of opens. So nothing given away with the gaps too much. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a little bit of a push up early, like just off the open, maybe a gap down, a little bit of a push up, and then a continuation to the downside. But as you can see here, resistance, resistance, resistance. I think there's a good chance that we see these come into action down over this area here. We see some sort of reaction through here, and then we'll have to sort of play it by ear there. So I think sort of like, as I said, up a little bit, but then I think we take out the lows. If we take out the lows, that's the area 370, I think, to be watching for, and then to sort of see what happens from there. From there, I think we definitely get a reaction. As to whether it sort of comes back up like this, or whether it sort of comes up, fails, and then sort of comes back down. Well, we've got to sort of play that by ear and sort of see how we go. We'll pick out our highs and our lows to see where the confirmations will be with those two sort of moves there. Move this one back through here, just clean this up a little bit. Let's put these onto the data. This is just an idea for that 3-step up with the consolidations above. So it starts to get a little bit choppy otherwise. So yeah, I think certainly we've got more downside to come. So a little bit more risk on sort of happening with DXY sort of cooling off a little bit, even if it's just more sort of profit taking. But I think the fact that you've got the double top up here, you've broken the lows, I think you need to see at least that sort of play out. If you were to sort of give that a little bit of a move like this, that'd give your measured move of that double top sort of breaking through the bottom wick there, sort of coming down to 103.90. With these things as well, if we back onto the daily for a second, there is always the chance, like if it does push and drive right back up over to here to the 104.470, sorry, 104.45 thereabouts. That could be a body fill, and then we've got to see how we go. DXY's got a habit of sort of looking like it's bearish, and then look at this, looking like it's bearish, and then that was news driven. And this is what I was saying, sort of like, because it's fairly quiet on the news today, I don't see a lot of reason to sort of drastically change direction of what the market is doing and what people are doing sort of with their buy sell positions and that. All right, flip across to gold. Gold had a good night. Well, good night. Better, I suppose. Get down onto the smaller time frames. This is what I was saying yesterday. If you watched the video yesterday, I said, look, there's no point trading it through this area. I think where were we? It was about Tuesday. It was about here or so yesterday. I said, look, we can see it's all marked out. There's the buyers, 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 buyers. We expect them to be sellers, and they were. So, as it came up, pushed it back down. But as we did go through this area, look at how quickly we moved up into that next zone. Like, that was just a straight shot on it. And this is why I said a close above sort of 2030. So, we came up here, we tested it, and okay, that's fine, came back down. But a push up to the top side here, close up above here, and look at that next candle. We just hammered up to the top side. That was like an $8 move in I think this is the 1 hour. So in 2 hours, we did an $8 move. Obviously, it's sort of chilled out a little bit, but, as again, this is why we've got it marked out. We know sellers are here, so we know sellers are going to be here. It's not sort of rocket science with these sort of things. You break these levels without any worry when there's news. So, for instance, here's an example here. Here's where we thought, we can see and this is the lower time frame, of course. Where's my little arrow thing? Buyers, buyers, buyers. So we thought, look, obviously the buyers are sitting here. What happened? NFP came out. Bang! Smashed right through. The news doesn't care about your levels. Technical analysis is great for sort of like when you're looking at it and you're going, okay, what are the buyers doing? What are the sellers doing? Where are they sitting? How strong are they? How many are there? When are they depleted? You get the news, well, nobody cares. Everybody's rushing to the door, and they just go bang, shoot back down. So anyway, what do we want to look for here? So I think sort of certainly a close above 2040. So similar to sort of this action here, where we know that the sellers are sitting here. We know the sellers are sitting here. We want to see this price action repeat. We want to see the price move up. We want to see that these sellers are kind of depleted. Not as strong, obviously you played quite a strong period at the back here, but as you can see a couple of times here, we've just chopped through this area quite quickly. So, I don't think it's going to be a massive one to sort of take out. I think a close above 2040 is going to be enough for it. I don't think we're going to get much more of a downside. Much more of a downside. I don't think we're going to get much more of a pushback from here. We could, of course, but I think, we've come up here, we've tested them. We know they're there. If you can get a close up here, for me, that's enough to sort of say, yep, okay, they're done at this level. And after that, it's a pretty, like, look at how quickly it's kind of like this is sort of ground down all the way through. But, effectively, it's not this kind of sideways chop, this kind of stuff here. You're not seeing a back and forth of everybody. It's very much all buying, all selling, all buying, all selling, all buying, all selling, all buying, all selling. You know what I mean? If you look through this whole period here, where are we through here? There's not a lot of, even sort of all the way back up to over here, it's pretty much one-way traffic every time. So, I think if we get to close above 2040, I'd be looking sort of for that test of that sort of 2050 area. Even though this was a sort of a short term, it was a small zone here, but you can see it sort of carried through here. So let's make it a zone. You can see that the sellers were here. They became the buyers. It would stand to reason that they're going to be the sellers again up over here, or at least give it some sort of pushback. And then obviously above that we got the high time frame sellers. So definitely some upside sort of headwinds. But at the moment it's not looking too bad in the little short term. We're consolidating the move from overnight. If we could sort of drag this out, maybe get a little bit of a maybe a little bit of a channel sort of coming through here. So with this, I mean, certainly, as I said, it's consolidating the highs. The push through here, close above 2040, could be quite good. But as I've said, and I do say every day, pretty much Asia's rubbish for gold. I don't know if you trade gold, Asia's not the time to be trading it really. You want to be sort of trading it when there's volume. So to me, potential sort of outcomes for this, we could see a potential, like as I said, DXY when it comes on could have a little fake up. I reckon that could provide a little bit of a pullback. This way we'd have an area where we know buyers are, we know the sellers were there last night, so this gives us a retest. You can see this rising trend here as well. I reckon if we get pull back to sort of 31, that's worth another buy there to see if we can then sort of get that push through. But I think the key sort of here is getting the close above 2040. 2040, I think, will be the sort of time where people go, okay, yep, cool, we're done with this little patch, and we're going back up into this battle zone up the top over here, which is what I said last week. All right, and flip across, we got Aussie. Aussie coming off a little inverted head and shoulders here. So we had negative divergence, this is what we were saying yesterday, but because this is a lower time frame, 1 hour, this is what you get out of the negative divergence of a 1 hour move on a 1 hour time frame. Sorry, you know what I mean. If you want trend changing things, you want sort of 4 hour minimum. Okay, and I'm back. So yeah, we had as I was saying, that negative divergence that sort of played out, pretty much done its trick to sort of get it back up to the top over here. We had Bullock obviously. Shed a little bit of light on stuff yesterday. Not really anything new though. I mean, it's just that sort of straight, we're not ruling anything. It was buzzword galore, basically. Sort of, we don't want to rule anything out. We'll do it if it needs to be done. Yada 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 yada. Like, you know what I mean? The CP, if you go off what the numbers they're actually putting out, well, it looks like it's moving in the right direction. So, you can't sort of scare people, I suppose. And that's the thing as well that it annoys me a little bit, I have to admit, is that, it seemed to be pandering too much to, sort of, oh, I don't want to sort of scare people and all this kind of thing. Like, you need to control what people are doing with their spending habits, I should say. I should say that. Control with their sort of spending habits and that, if that's what the sort of main reason for the inflation is. So, anyway. Regardless, she didn't give away a lot. Market sort of said, agreed. They said, look, okay, whatever, it's all very well, but you're not giving us anything new, nothing sort of with full confidence. And then sort of overnight, obviously we got this push off here. So anyway, so to the chart of this, we've got little shoulder, we got the head, we got the shoulder, we've got a very well-defined neckline where we know that the sellers were sellers. As you can see, sort of coming back through here, they've become the buyers on this side now as well. As you can see, this little path that we were looking to sort of play out, break through. This is it here, back test, double back test, and we've taken out with a higher high. So if we can get a bit of, a bit of volume in to sort of continue this here, There's a good chance that, as you can see, it's a fairly straight shot with these ones as well. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a move back up to sort of, you know, safe side sort of 65.50 here. So it's only about 20 points or so. Measured move takes you to 65.63, which will sort of actually also take you to this high time frame falling resistance, which obviously is going to be a little bit of a work to get through as well. So, it's coming off the lows. It's not doing too bad. If we actually put this onto the daily time frame, this is the kind of thing that could get it moving. Is the fact that we've got a lower low here, quite clearly, as it sort of came down. This is the NFE. I mean, this is prior to the NFE, and we sort of shot back up, and we were looking good for 2 seconds. And then obviously, bang, smash back down. So, you know what I mean? It was sort of trying to, so we did have buyers around this area. Unfortunately, so if they've given up, which they gave up off the news, which, a lot of people, there was just so much volume that came into the market with that, that it just overtook anything. But, if we could see that this pushes back up into this zone, this could be very much a negative divergence. It would take us out of this little sort of downward trending channel. And that could be sort of giving some sort of follow through. This comes obviously based on, well, not based on, but if DXY does continue to fail a little bit more, and we do sort of see a little bit more of a push on the stuff sort of coming out of China, which I'll get to in a moment. But at least sort of, at the moment, it's looking like it's trying to put in a negative divergence on the daily time frame, which, as I keep saying, if you're going to do these negative divergences to get a actual trend changing move, you want 4-hour minimum, but obviously higher time frame the better. And on a daily time frame, that could be something worth keeping an eye on for sure down at these levels. It's danced around this 61% fib a number of times, and obviously so far has held. Downside, obviously, if it fails and comes down here and goes down here, well, boom, you're looking down 64, high 63s. But as it is right now, I think we've got short term, we've got a little bit of a confirmed head and shoulders playing out here. And, this little 4-hour H4 is looking like it wants to move up a little bit more here as well. So I think at least some short term upside on Aussie. 65.20, sorry, 65.20, 66.20. I think is definitely the position that you want to sort of see this in, to sort of say that, okay, this might be sort of confirming this higher time frame move. Seeing it get a little bit of a push up right now, just on change of the half hour. So yeah, it's certainly moving along. That little head and shoulders, I think that's the play for the moment though. And if we flip across copper, copper's trying to find some find some feet down here. As I said, it's really been bashed pretty hard. It's again one of those things that sort of we're seeing it come right back. Where are we at here? Yeah, a little bit of a sort of rising support. I'm not a big fan of that blue line there, but it seems to be doing the trick. Yeah, this little area here, it's consolidating the lows. So at least with the consolidation of the lows, it starts to give us some defined levels where we can go here, here. All of a sudden, it's not all about the sellers. We got the buyers that are sort of going, yep, okay, we can do it. Yeah, it's been pushed back down because you know what? They're making another effort. They bought it up. Sellers are going, okay, I'll try and drive it down. Buy it up, try and drive it down. Coming in a little bit higher each time. So you can see that the buyers, albeit small, are slightly moving up. Now they're here, now they're here. So what you want to see with copper here would be something along this sort of line. This top line here isn't based on anything. That was just the idea of a reasonable sort of angle you could be looking for. This pushback area here could come in line with a little bit of this area here. As you can see, there were people that tried to catch this. These were the buyers here. So, could stand to reason that we see something along this little line here, where we see that the buyers come up here. They go, whatever, I'm just out. I'm happy to take my money and try again another time, and become sellers and push back down here. It gives us a retest of this area here before giving us a level that we can break to give a higher high on that trend. So I think certainly short-term move again, risk on with copper moving up here, goes on with Aussie moving up here a little bit. Could sort of see some sort of short-term moves to the top side here, and then we've got to really sort of digest what's happening with risk on the higher time frames. But certainly for now, the fact that it's started to hit a little bit more of a little consolidation area and a zone means that we should be sort of seeing a little bit of a push, because as you can see here, you tried to do the same thing, albeit very small, only a couple of times. You know, the sellers were moving down each time here. As you can see, the buyers stayed flat, sellers moved down each time, and eventually sellers just said, "No, I've had enough of this," and just went bang. Well, the buyers say, "Hey, look, I'm not going to stand in its way," and it gave up, and now we're sort of seeing same sort of thing. It's a tussle. It's a back and forth. This is a range, a consolidation. It's, you know, you're seeing the buyers move up, move up, move up. Now we want to see, are the sellers going to go, okay, fine, I'm done with this, and they're going to see a follow through and push back up to this sort of 380, 383.5 area kind of thing. But I think, yeah, we should see a little bit of sort of short-term upside on copper here. And finally on China. China's actually putting in a failed second effort here. It really did sort of pop out to the top side here, but you know, if you look on your daily time frames, that's a second effort to come out of this zone. And it's actually coming in a little bit lower. It's come in pretty much as you'd expect it, where the sellers were previously. So, you know, we saw the sellers push down from here. So, you know, here they are again, same level. So I think sort of certainly if we look, it's hard to sort of say with these things because, you know, as I said, it's a bit of a cooling off. China's really working hard to get off the floor, basically. Their stock market is in absolute the pits, like it's an absolute rubbish heap. But they sort of seem to do it. I mean, the housing market's been rubbish for ages. Well, in a rubbish trend for ages. Um, they're doing a lot to try and sort of save themselves here. So they've got the power to do it. It's just whether they can apply it enough. And a lot of the commentary sort of seems that, you know, obviously it's not just sort of what they do as the PBOC or whatever. They need to sort of get people actually believing that they're not so dodgy and believing that, okay, you know, I can invest over there and my money's not going to disappear and, you know, it's not going to get locked up or the company's not just going to go and fold or to be taken over by the CTP or whatever it is. I don't know. I'm not really sort of up to date with what they're doing with their political sort of stuff so much. But basically, you need investor confidence over there, and that'll help sort of drive things. But they're certainly working very hard to do it. Um, in terms of the chart, we want to sort of see it back down, a close under 718 for downside moves, and I'd say a close above 722.6 for a positive move. I'm still sort of in the camp of this sort of coming down a little bit lower. As you can see as well, this last push from this area here, here's your high, that's your next one, and it's come up the same level, so it's not necessarily negative divergence, but you know, it's sort of buying pressure came right up to the top over here at 94 to get it up here. This second move to come up here, you know, and it's been sold down here a little bit, certainly isn't quite at the same level. So particularly if this ends up sort of coming back down under 718, that's going to roll this over. You're going to see this kind of move come through. I'm like, where are we? If this moves back down here, this is going to push this down, which is going to give you a negative divergence. And I expect that to be a double fail at the top there, and then the test of this 716 line is really where it'll be. So you could almost sort of say that this is your range now, these lots here, with your midway being through here. So obviously this midway, you've got buyers that we were here, so it's worth another shot, unless you get some sort of drastic bit of news that'll blow through it. You'd expect it probably to, if it takes out this wick, yesterday's low, pushes down here. These buyers were happy to hold it at this level, so I'd expect them to give it a little bit of a push back up, give it another shot here, and then come down like this. You've also got this kind of rising support sort of coming through here, which could be a bit of a confluence. So I do expect if we do get a push down here, we will get a bit of a push up. But at the same time, if this were to be some sort of channel, well, you know, this needed to really come up here to validate the channel. Because otherwise you touch, there's will be a third touch. You need to go side to side like a ping pong, really. But I'd say, yeah, if we break the lows of yesterday, I'd expect this 718 area to get the touch up. A little bit of a reaction there. If you then break that on a second go, so if we see that the buyers give it one last effort and then it comes down, the selling's too strong, or the buyers just give up at this area here, I imagine that'll be quite a quick move down to 716, 715. That'll give you your negative divergence on that as well. All right, that's about it from me.